1975, there's only about 7,000 multinational corporations, but today there are tens of thousands. The average venture-backed company exports more than 40% of their sales in the world today. In fact, it's considered a competitive requirement to invest in the global market, workforce, technology, and talent. Multinational corporations manage production or deliver services in more than one country. And this can mean that the skills and knowledge of anthropologists are in greater demand today than ever before. Offshoring refers to subcontracting services to third parties in another country. More than 50% of all U.S.-owned manufacturing production is now located in foreign countries. And what you tend to see is the moving of production from more expensive environments or ecologies to less expensive ones. Benefits, of course, typically include less stringent production regulations and laws, and also no need to pay health care. Countries where you've seen a lot of offshoring and outsourcing are places like South Africa, India, China, Mexico, and Russia. For many social scientists, this is seen as a highly controversial topic because there are differing costs, benefits, and risks to people depending on what side of the equation you're on. And while production appears to be increasing, compensation hasn't kept up with the increases in production, generally speaking. Another area where you see a lot of offshoring is in healthcare. The increasing costs of healthcare are causing some insurance companies and individuals to look for cheaper places to get their healthcare accomplished. And this results in medical tourism. For example, costs of surgery in Bolivia or Argentina, India, Thailand, South Africa, they could be a tenth of what it is in the United States or Western Europe, and sometimes even less than that. A heart valve replacement that might cost $200,000 here might go for only $10,000 in the Philippines. And this would include round-trip airfare and a brief vacation on top of it. Dental work's not immune to healthcare offshoring because we see people in the United States who cross the border over to Mexico pretty regularly in order to get cheaper dental care. Another area where we see a lot of medical tourism is in cosmetic surgeries and also sex change surgeries, where a hotspot for this is in Thailand, where the medical practices and services are extraordinarily high and the costs also low. We've also seen an increase in the outsourcing of families. In the picture that you see below there, a grandmother is giving birth to twin grandsons for her daughter. In Brazil, only relatives can be surrogates for others. Surrogate mothering tops a multi-billion-dollar industry. In the United States, it can cost $30,000 to $60,000 to pay someone to surrogate your baby. In India, that price tag is only $10,000 to $12,000. So it isn't unheard of in Western European countries for couples that are having difficulty to conceive but don't have a lot of money for surrogacy going to India in order to pay less money, but at the same time possibly providing people with unique economic opportunities, but of course aren't beyond the biased judgments of others. For example, one woman in India said, "How else will us uneducated women earn this kind of money without doing anything immoral?" Even though she reported that it's not a respectable quote-unquote thing to do in their society, many women have turned to the economic opportunity anyway because they see a benefit of helping a needy family have a child, but also perhaps earning enough individual income to buy a residence. Before 1800, less than 5% of the U.S. population lived in cities. Everyone else resided in rural areas where extended families could live together easily and cheaply. But with industrialization and development and intensive agriculture, you saw mass migration of individuals from rural areas into cities because these were the places that held the best economic opportunities. Where the world population is doubling, the urban populations are tripling. And while there is this general rural to urban city migration, at the same time, during the 80s and 90s, there was white middle-class migration from the cities to the suburbs as an attempt to escape perhaps some of the high crime rates or to create more homogeneous communities. A backlash from this was a migration back to urban centers and this gentrification of urban areas, and partly this was due to the high and rising costs of housing and gasoline associated with the suburbs. And migration patterns are always changing because one of the most important trends to come out of the 2010 census was that African Americans moved out of urban inner cities in droves and headed for suburban cities. They probably did this for some of the same reasons that people did this previously, to escape some of the stress of urban centers, perhaps higher crime rates or the psychological and physical stresses of living in dense populations, where cultural ideas and rules are changing constantly at such increasing rapid rates that people live in future shock. Anthropologists call this the psychological disorientation that results from living in a cultural environment that's changing so rapidly that people feel like they're constantly living in the future. And however much you wish you could press the pause button, that's so difficult to do. And what will the world look like for your grandchildren someday? Because with each generation, the number of cultural ideas and technologies exponentially increases. I leave you to ponder this thought more on your own. And I want to thank you for attending this cultural anthropology class. It's been great having you, and I hope you've learned something about the diversity of the world's cultures today. And try to remember Margaret Mead's message. Anthropology's goal is to make the world safe for human differences. I hope you have a great day.